Gervonta Davis rightfully tops almost all compilations of the best punchers, and today we'll go through his entire career, witnessing every knockout he has gifted to his fans. Friends, today's video will be dedicated to all the remaining knockouts of Gervonta Davis. Please don't forget to like, comment with 4 words, and subscribe to never miss new videos. And we're starting. Let's go! Number 1. Ricky Dulay. Davis's first registered professional ring fight took place on February 22, 2013. At that time, the Tank was a youngster with a deadly amateur base and high ambitions, but by the end of the year, his record was 6-0 with a 100% finish rate, an upgrade to 9-0, and the first decision win was expected in 2014. And in 2015, Gervonta embarked on a series of 2 first-round victories and encountered a similar prospect in Ricky Dulay. The only difference between the guys was that the latter had already tasted the bitterness of defeat. While Ricky was stepping into the ring to box, Gervonta was getting ready to smash. After the first left hook, Dulay's confidence hit the bottom faster than the Titanic. Gervonta added a couple of hefty body blows, which caused his opponent to get even more nervous and retreat. At one point, the Tank threw a straight punch and Ricky ducked, but still got hit and was counted a knockout. The situation was not the most unambiguous, but the next left hook became the final one. The Tank so generously bestowed his power on his opponent that he could not answer the referee's question and the fight was stopped. Number 2. Cristobal Cruz. Gervonta went on a streak of 3 consecutive first-round knockouts, and his hype train confidently set off on the rails that would lead him to future titles. However, more spectacular victories were needed before that. Less than 2 months after demolishing prospect Nunes, the Tank landed a contract to fight a true veteran of the super featherweight division. I don't even know where Floyd got Cristobal Cruz from, a dinosaur whose career started way back in 1992. Over the years, this veteran had been written off as scrap metal multiple times, but in 2008, he even became the IBF champion, although he was not in his best form now, having lost 5 consecutive fights. At the end of the first round, the Tank folded Cruz in half with his left straight. At that moment, sensitive fans were already worried about the pensioner who was literally devoured by the young lion, but it was too early to write off Cruz. Unlike fragile youngsters, the battle-hardened old-timer went toe-to-toe with Gervonta in the second round and didn't even go down. The Tank was astonished by the audacity and in the heat of the moment got caught, but retribution was close. In the middle of the next round, Cruz threw a lazy jab, and in the same second, he received a supersonic uppercut. The punch arrived at such speed that even Cruz's brain didn't immediately comprehend it and started shutting down with a delay. The punch became the best and, at the same time, the final one of the fight. Number 3. Luis Sanchez. Cruz became the first former champion with whom the Tank had an opportunity to share the ring. However, objectively speaking, the Mexican had long ceased to be a measuring stick for evaluating a boxer's abilities. Gervonta needed someone more serious, younger, and just as hungry. Uncle Floyd and his team also understood this, so they found Luis Sanchez, a former contender for the WBO/NABO lightweight title, for their protege. The only blemish on the Mexican's name was his recent knockout loss. A repeat of such an outcome seemed highly likely in the fight against Gervonta. From the first minutes, the Tank realized that Luis was different from anyone he had fought before. Most importantly, Sanchez reacted to punches and moved well, which gave Gervonta a reason to showcase his entire arsenal. Beautiful head movement, devastating close-range strikes, and monstrous power in his uppercuts. Those were the challenges Sanchez had to face. By the way, he held up quite well, at least lasting longer than anyone before him. But at some point, Luis began resorting to dirty tricks, including headbutts against the Tank. Gervonta repeatedly signaled this to the referee, and as soon as Sanchez stopped imitating a bull, he immediately hit the canvas. A couple of fierce uppercuts cooled his enthusiasm,
Oh, the second one drops Sanchez.
but it wasn't the end yet. In the 9th round, Luis was cold-bloodedly finished off with another left uppercut coming his way.
Oh, that's why. Lightning quick.
Number 4. Guillermo Avila. Mexican fighter Sanchez managed to withstand the tank for almost the entire allotted time, but almost doesn't count. However, against such a beast in human form, even small successes like almost going the distance will look impressive. After a short break of 3 months, the troublemaker Gervonta jumped in against Guillermo Avila, who had an unimpressive record with alternating wins and losses. Don't waste yourself, he'll kill you. Avila wanted to shout during the fight. Either he didn't know anything else, or he believed in himself and his guardian angel so much that Guillermo seriously engaged with Gervonta and knowingly lost to him. Davis was faster and naturally hit harder, but even after feeling the cannons of Floyd's protege, Guillermo continued to slug it out. The reckoning came in the 4th round when only the rope saved him from falling. The tank paternalistically brushed off the disobedient son and then added a knockdown to his record. Avila's legs held him up only by a miracle, but even that was powerless when Gervonta, like hammers, pounded him at the beginning of the 6th round.
And Michelle Myers has Gervonta Davis bounces up and down on the ropes.
Number 5. Mario Macias. The crushed body of Avila became Gervonta's 15th scalp in his career, but his journey was just beginning. Ahead were the first fights for titles, and before them, there remained one last, small, unpredictable test in the face of Mario Macias, who, although boasting an almost perfect win-loss ratio, still posed some degree of danger. During the stare-down in the center of the ring, Mario tried to burn a hole in his opponent's head with his intimidating gaze, while the tank was thinking about the best way to incapacitate this guy with his punch. With the sound of the bell, all of Macias' bravado evaporated as he relinquished the initiative, and Gervonta decided to attack with jabs to the body. The sound was sharp and very loud, but even louder were the bells ringing in Mario's head when the tank hit him with a right hook. The punch was precise, fast, and most importantly, devastating. After such a brutal blow, the opponent couldn't recover, and Davis was declared the winner.
NFL team, the Baltimore Ravens. Gervonta Davis. Punch to the body.
Number 6. Jose Pedraza. Until this day, the title of Gervonta's toughest opponents belonged to Luis Sanchez. But on January the 14th, 2017, it unquestionably passed to Jose Pedraza. Apart from being undefeated in his 22 fights, the Puerto Rican held the IBF Super Featherweight title, and he already had 2 successful defenses. The opponent was truly formidable, and knocking out someone like him was a real challenge. But come on, it's Gervonta Davis we're talking about, so a knockout was guaranteed. This time standing opposite the tank was his compatriot, who followed a completely different style. While the Baltimore maniac with bazooka-like punches or his semi-legendary uppercuts, Pedraza worked with a classic scheme, focusing on jabs and trying to be the one applying pressure, but it was clearly not working well. Gervonta brutally overwhelmed his opponent, especially in close range, where the Puerto Rican absorbed shots that should never be taken. In the 4th round, the tank teased the champion for the weakness of his punches and then showed him how it should be done. Over time, Jose started absorbing even more punishment, but he still held on. However, in the 7th round, a rocket-like hook put an end to his championship reign. Number 7. Liam Walsh. With titanic confidence, the Tank claimed his first title in his career and became the best boxer in the IBF weight class. With this status, the era of fights with no names vanished into thin air. No one was planning to bring in veterans from the 90s or Mexican fighters with records like 28-18 anymore. It was time for serious guys, if we can say that about Liam Walsh. The Brit came with a pristine record, but he only had a Commonwealth champion title under his belt and he clearly wanted more. Walsh started the encounter as a southpaw but adjusted when he didn't gain an advantage. The collision took place in the UK and the support of local fans was crucial for Liam because he was damn afraid of the Baltimorean fighter and tried to escape at the first opportunity. Some would call it cowardice, but I'll say this guy just wanted to survive. He knew that if he got close to the Tank, he would likely wake up in the hospital. But by the third round, he couldn't elude anymore and Gervonta caught Liam. A series of mega heavy punches culminating in a left hook gave the Brit a concussion, but he decided it wasn't enough and continued to fight, taking even more punishment. Just a couple of hits were enough for the referee to stop the merciless beating. Number 8. Francisco Fonseca. The defense turned out to be vivid and one-sided. The Tank decapitated the guy in front of his own crowd, and it only added more drama to the knockout. The second defense of Gervonta's belt was scheduled for August the 26th, and Francisco Fonseca, a prospect with almost the same record, was chosen as the opponent. Everything would have been good except the Tank seriously messed up and didn't make weight. For a champion, such a mistake is unforgivable, so Gervonta was immediately stripped off his belt. All that was left for Davis now was to redeem himself against his opponent. The Tank was slower than usual, presumably due to the unsuccessful weight cutting. Against the backdrop of such a performance, Fonseca acted relaxed and even overconfident at times, which the former champion took advantage of to bring him down to earth. It should be noted that the young fighter took punches well and endured a lot that evening, occasionally delivering decent counters but often missing the mark. In the fourth round, Davis beautifully executed a move reminiscent of Roy Jones Jr. and landed an uppercut that could be watched for an eternity. Overall, the dominant fighter in the bout was more than evident. However, we still didn't reach a decision. In round 8, Davis exploded with a couple of combinations displaying snake-like agility and caught his opponent with a powerful left hook. Fonseca's body went limp and he couldn't find the strength to continue. Number 9. Jesus Cuellar. Crying and wiping his tears with the money he got from the knockout, the Tank very soon received another title fight, this time however for the WBA Super Belt, but the opponent, even for not the most prestigious title, was exactly what he needed. Jesus Cuellar had only 2 losses, one of which was in the distant past, and the last one he suffered in his last performance, where the judges made a split decision. Before that, the Argentine had defended his championship belt twice. While Cuellar was jumping around with the speed of a wounded buffalo, young leopard Gervonta was slaughtering him with sharp combinations to all levels. There was a huge difference in speed between the guys, and the Tank took great advantage of it, remaining out of reach for counterpunches. In the second round, a terrible straight punch hit the Argentine's body and he fell, but managed to gather his spirit and continue. For the Baltimore boxer, this was a challenge. He began the third round with predatory uppercuts, but Jesus fell after another body punch. This time Gervonta didn't let his opponent recover and finished him off with a series of powerful blows. Number 10. Hugo Ruiz. The killer from Baltimore is back on the horse and with a belt on his shoulder. The dominating victory over Cuellar completely overshadowed the shaky clash with Fonseca, and now Gervonta had to confirm his status as the most terrifying boxer in his weight class, and there were plenty of opponents for that. Right after the Argentine, the former WBC title holder Mexican Hugo Ruiz, with a pretty good record of 40-5, lined up for the WBA Super title. In burgundy shorts with a black belt, the Tank looked like an ancient Roman gladiator, and his toughness was appropriate. Ruiz didn't have time to recover as his back was rubbing the ropes and Gervonta was aiming at his head with his deadly weapons. To the Mexican's credit, he did snap back a couple of times, but this only lifted the champion's mood, who furiously pounced on his opponent at the end of the round. Several hefty blows and a right hook at the end, an amazing combination. Hugo didn't immediately realize the power of these blows, but as soon as he did, it was all over. Gervonta Davis won by a knockout in the very first round. Number 11. Ricardo Nunes. Delivering knockouts in the first round at the championship level is absolutely insane. Davis was a true super featherweight monster, and everyone he encountered found out for themselves, which didn't stop new challengers from appearing. The next thrill seeker was the talented and skillful Ricardo Nunes, with a record of 21-2. Not so long ago, the Panamanian held a secondary belt, but lost it and was now planning to steal Davis's title. Ricardo constantly defended his head, so the champion decided to go with body shots and didn't miss. His punches were landing like they were home, and his opponent could not find an answer. By the second segment, the champion got tired of finding a punch through the lower tier, and he started to push Nunes with the intention of switching to the head. For a while the guy was defending, but all of this was relevant until the first left hook. An uncontrollable bomb hit Ricardo's head and he let himself be cornered, which led to the worst 6 seconds of his life. Davis ripped life from the standing body and forced the referee to stop the fight. Number 12. Yuriorkis Gamboa. The Tank's move into the lightweight division was justified for many reasons, including opposition. There were no worthy challengers in his home category for Gervonta, but here in the lightweight category, fights awaited him with notable guys, the first of which was the Cuban Yuriorkis Gamboa. Once the shadow of Cuba hung over the entire boxing world and frightened everyone, but only fragments of that greatness remained, one of which was the veteran Gamboa. The WBA belt was at stake in the confrontation of experience and youth. This fight turned out to be much more careful than Davis' previous fights, and largely due to the Cuban. Due to his reach and really top footwork, the veteran didn't take extra and was almost always far from the Tank's influence zone. However, as soon as he missed a bit in the second round, he fell into a knockdown but recovered.
Double jab and then the left hand drop.
Gervonta had good punches in each segment, especially in the 8th, where he awaited a colourful knockdown.
Final 15 seconds and Davis lands a left hand.
The champion struck rarely, but if he hit, the Cuban almost 100% fell. The 12th round came, in which the Tank had never been before. Gamboa could become the first in a long time to hold out against the Baltimore fighter for the entire allotted time, but an uppercut interfered,
He's won it incredible. And down goes Gamboa.
which echoed in Yuriorkis' head like a funeral march and became the decisive blow of the fight. Number 13. Leo Santa Cruz. Of course, the Tank with his regalia was the favorite in the fight against the Cuban, but no one thought the confrontation would be so one-sided. Yuriorkis couldn't offer anything to Davis, but then an obvious question arose: who can pose a problem for this guy? There were quite a few candidates for this role, but suddenly there appeared to be the best who Davis had fought to date. Leo Santa Cruz, a 4-division world champion who won 8 title fights. At that time, Terremoto was competing in the super featherweight division, but for the fight with Gervonta, he decided to move up to the next category. Perhaps in this fight, Davis realized for the first time in his life what it's like when it's not you pressing, but you are being pressed. The Mexican with the huge heart of a champion was advancing and not afraid of the Baltimore fighter's punches.
There because of the lack of distractions and the ability to focus, but Santa Cruz now unloading.
With his hands fastened to his jaw, Santa Cruz responded to every lunge in his direction, as well as seasoned the champion with good body shots.
Because Davis can land that shot in.
Final 10 seconds.
Leo did a tremendous job, and it was hard for the Tank to adapt. In terms of speed, technique, and perhaps even strength, Terremoto was not inferior to the opponent. but one cannot forget who of them is the puncher.
I think he's doing the right thing. And even when he doesn't...
In the 6th round, Gervonta managed to corner Santa Cruz against the ropes at the cost of a dozen missed punches. And at that moment, wild adrenaline filled the entire body of the Tank and found only one way out. In an uppercut. Deafening knockout. The Mexican champion was defeated by a single blow. Number 14. Mario Barrios. The victory was hard-fought and laborious. Santa Cruz took rounds and at some moments gave Davis a good beating, but it still wasn't enough. Such a scalp in the Tank's assets added plus 100 to his reputation and legacy. At least, but even that wasn't enough for the champion. In 2021, Mario Barrios became the super lightweight champion. His winning streak counted 26 consecutive fights. Evaluating all the risks, the Knockout Artists team decided that this was the best time to jump up another division and grab the 3rd title in his career. What was Davis' team thinking about, signing a contract to fight this giant? Barrios was taller with longer arms and good footwork, which became a real disaster for the Tank. He's simply the opponent, while Mario calmly jabbed and ran around the large ring.
Especially with that uppercut. Was able to land overhand.
Out of the 8 starting rounds, the natural super lightweight took at least 6, which deprived Davis of the chances to win the match on points, but he didn't need that. Under another opponent's jab, Gervonta set up an explosive knockdown with a right hook.
Right, but... Oh my! Wow!
Barrios had not yet recovered as a left straight again deprived him of support. Well, after such blows, fighters usually can't get back up, but the champion managed to and then continued to play his game. Mario showed the determination of a warrior, but Davis kept pressing and caught up with his opponent in the 11th round. A brutal knockdown through the liver and the final couple of punches to the head, and that's it. Number 15. Rolando Romero. For the first time in this clip, we are skipping one of Gervonta's fights, as young Isaac Cruz became the first to last the full fight with the champion in many years. But the next opponent was not granted this honor. After Cruz, young trash talker Rolando Romero sneaked into Davis's opponents, whose desire to focus all camera attention on himself caused nothing but cringe. The guy with a 14-0 record was going to be a messiah and free the lightweight from the dragon that seized it, but apparently he didn't know he was far from the first to try to do so. Davis gave Rolly time and space to maneuver, but all Romero could muster were endless jabs and clumsy pursuit. When the champion himself initiated the attack, the challenger retreated and didn't even try to respond. This cat and mouse game pleased Gervonta, and he continued to give the guy chances while beating him with the left hook. Romero didn't change anything in his game plan and, like a fish against ice, struggled against Gervonta's defense and technique. This was the main mistake in this fight. The champion read his opponent's movement patterns and took advantage of this in the 6th round. The challenger launched an attack and the Tank had already moved to the side, throwing a left hook, and then everything went according to the well-worked scheme. One punch, one body down. Romero received colossal damage and the fight for him was over.
Awkward, but in this fight he's not looking...
Number 16. Hector Garcia. Before this fight, the life of the Tank was in turmoil. After years of challenges and trash-talking stories, Ryan Garcia signed a contract to fight Gervonta, and it was all supposed to happen in April. But before that day, the champion had to face Hector Garcia, an undefeated and unknown guy from the Dominican Republic. During preparation, the Baltimore native got involved in a horrific domestic violence story and could have been playing basketball in the prison yard in a couple of months, but he was saved. Almost losing his career, Gervonta barely gathered himself and entered the ring. While the commentators live called the Southpaw's fight thoughtful and technical, I would prefer the term boring. Seriously, The guys often stood facing each other, waiting for counteractions. In the first round, the Tank landed 3 punches and didn't even try to put any pressure. Garcia threw doubles. He did it infrequently but accurately enough to claim the rounds for himself. Gervonta was not himself until the 4th round, when he finally began to wake up and land punches. Hector took the hits and also stepped up, not letting the opponent get ahead. The match went nose to nose until in the 8th round, the Tank opened fire from all guns. The speed bombing on all directions overwhelmed Garcia, and he barely stood on his feet, and in the break refused to continue the fight. Number 17. Ryan Garcia. We've been on the road to this fight for 5 years, and the moment has arrived. Not as young and hungry as he was in the lightweight division, Gervonta still remained a wild beast that you could expect anything from. Ryan also changed, matured a lot and added power, and his famous speed was still with him. Although the fight was not for the championship according to one of the main versions, there was way more hype around it than any lightweight fight, and it was enticing. Remember that sluggish and not very aggressive Gervonta from the previous fight? This time there was no sign of that. The Tank was focused and ready for any opponent's actions. He didn't let Garcia rampage, chopping him with punches for every mistake in the fight. As soon as the Flash began to get cheeky and started open skirmishes, the Baltimore native pierced him with a left straight, sending him into a knockdown.
He's at all time, and he just beneath that left hook.
Stunned by what was happening, Garcia laid low for a couple of rounds and then tried to come back and reclaim the lost ground. Ryan started getting into exchanges again, relying solely on the left hook. But does an elite boxer rely on one punch? That's what Davis understood, so he surprised his opponent, and instead of another attack to the head, he hit his liver. A wave of pain and suffering hit the guy, and he went down on one knee to acknowledge the Tank as the main one. The punch turned out to be decisive, and the match was over. And that's it. Did you like the video?